All right, welcome to Let Freedom Ring. My guest this week on a Tuesday edition, the legendary manager, Sidney Bakabella. Sidney, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be on. I'm like one of those talking heads on the network news shows.
Awesome. And also I'm rocking the Sidney Bakabella T-shirt that you can find at prowrestlingtees.com. Is that the main place to get that shirt?
That's it. ProWrestlingTees.com/Sidney Bakabella. It'll improve your sex life whether you're alone or not.
All right, Sidney, let's get to know you just a little bit. Where are you from and where'd you grow up?
I grew up in New Bedford, Massachusetts, actually. So lived down there until I was about 15, then moved to Hudson, New Hampshire for about a year, and then off to Chicago for over a decade. I was in the Navy, and I ended up staying out there because I'm a huge Bears fan.
Oh, okay. All right. Awesome. And what's something everybody should know about Sidney Bakabella?
Well, I travel the world. Even still during the pandemic, I still doing wrestling once a week. Top secret though, can't tell anybody. Everybody will get in trouble. But yeah, travel the world. Doing this and been doing this now as Sidney Bakabella for 42 years.
Oh, wow. Oh, nice.
39.
Awesome, Sidney. And what does it mean to you to be an American? Sticking with the theme of the show, Let Freedom Ring.
It's being free. It's getting to enjoy the privileges of being a free person. For me, it's owning a home, it's making a lot of money, it's raising my family. That's what being a proud American means to me.
Awesome. Good answer. And that's going to bring us into current events. And obviously, 2020 has been dominated by COVID-19, this pandemic. How has your life changed during the pandemic?
Well, I get to stay home a lot. And being at home, you spend a lot more money. So far since March, we've put up trampolines, water slides. I just bought a Peloton.
Oh, wow.
About a week ago. It just got delivered on Saturday, so I've been doing that. Mainly it's trying to keep my kid occupied. That's the big thing, and trying not to go crazy.
Yeah, this has definitely been an unreal time for parents, I have to say. I don't think any parent ever thought they'd spend as much time with their kids and have to be teachers, a lot of them as well.
Could you imagine me teaching kindergarten? I drop the F-bomb every 30 seconds, and I have no patience. These teachers should be paid like rock stars and sports athletes with how hard that job is.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a hard job. That's for sure. Recently, Neil Gorsuch, one of Trump's nominees, actually went kind of against the president, basically saying LGBQT. There's a lot of letters there. Rights are human rights, and is protecting workers, that you can't just let them go for who they are. Were you surprised by that?
I don't think in this day and age anyone should be surprised by that. That's, to me, is just common sense. That if two men or two women want to be as miserable as a man and a woman being married, who am I to stop them? Um, it's none of my business, and I support everyone. Like, go do whatever you want to do. That's part of being an American. Like, we're free.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've come a long way. When I was a kid, I never thought gay marriage would be legal across the whole United States, and that was a great moment for all of us. So no, it was definitely it was good to see that, because where I stand kind of politically, I was surprised that someone that President Trump nominated would be in a position to do that. So
it goes to show that he has a brain and he has compassion, and that's a big part of politics, is being compassionate towards everyone, not just the people that blindly follow you.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. but that's going to bring us into something that um, being I live in Merrimack. There's a thing called the Merrimack Forum, and a lot of people tend to go back and forth. Now, I'm glad that this. I don't know if this show is going to be on my YouTube channel. I don't know if public access will. Maybe we'll get it on there. What do you think of the Merrimack Forum? I'm sure there's some strong opinions on that.
You know, it's the worst of a group of people, and it's like three people that are just horrendous human beings, if you ask me. These are people that I would never associate with, although I don't associate with anyone. But I would never associate with these people. But you put them in this forum, and they treat it like it's their personal Facebook, and they just put up all of this nonsense that only applies to them. And I'm one of those people. If you're an idiot, I'm going to tell you you're an idiot.
Yeah,
And I've I've been kicked out of the one with the where the sky was blue.
yeah.
That's the I got kicked out of that one. Because every time people would go in and post something that wasn't about Merrimack, I'd plug my t-shirts. So
That's
I
brilliant.
see a few of them out of there too, which is great. But yeah, just idiots. 99% of the people that I've come across in this town are great people. My neighbors are awesome. Everybody around here is awesome. But yeah, there are those few, and you're gonna get that anywhere you go.
Yeah, it's true. And I pick on the Merrimack Forum specifically, but if you go into the Nashua one, a lot of times it's not much different. Uh, I have to say though, on the Merrimack Forum, can we stop with the masks? Like that does not have to be a post every single day.
That I mean, whatever the hot button issue is, you're going to get 800 posts by the same three people, and
Yeah.
it's just okay. Shut up. Like we don't need it. Like, all right, one is enough. That's perfectly fine. Let's all get our opinion, and then it's memes. It's information
Yeah.
that's not true.
Yeah.
It's like it's the worst of the worst.
Yeah, I have to agree. And a lot of things I see on there where I'm like, if you really want to spread, just put that on your own page. You don't have to put that in the forum. You have your own account.
I've been going on now just asking when they put that up there, is your Facebook timeline full?
Yeah. No, that's a great point. All right, well, that's going to bring us into pop culture. Oscars already looking to get delayed. I haven't really thought about the Oscars in years, and I just figured we'd talk about it a little bit. Are you a fan of the Oscars? Do you put any stock into who wins and who loses there?
No, because the movies I like have never won an Oscar. I don't care who has the best cinematic photography. I don't care. I don't even know what that is. I
Yeah.
want to be entertained, and movies are supposed to be entertaining. So to me, it's all these people that get up there, they overdress, they spend way too much on all their outfits, and then they want to preach to me about everything. Shut up, accept your award, thank the director, and go home.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I'm not if it gets postponed. It's not something I don't think I've watched it in years. So the fact that it was the big story that got postponed. I think Ricky Gervais a few times told people to just enough. I don't know if
Yeah,
he's hosted that the Oscars, but
I think he's done it once. I mean, there was a year where they didn't even have a host. It
yeah,
was just, it was God talking over the over the loudspeaker. That was it.
yeah, yeah. So not something that I guess if it gets delayed, it gets delayed.
Yeah.
Um, Sidney, what are some of your favorite movies?
All right. This is gonna shock you. And I was actually thinking, do I actually tell you my favorite movies, or do I, say something that you would expect from Sidney Bakabella? But I'm actually gonna tell you my favorite movies because they will shock you. My all-time favorite movie is Hot Rod with Andy Samberg.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah, where he's
Okay.
the stuntman.
Yep.
And then it's House Guest with Sinbad. Um yeah.
Yes. I remember that movie.
Yep. And then I'm a huge fan of Good Burger. I absolutely love the movie Good Burger.
That's in my collection.
That's those are the movies that I watch. I unfortunately don't have a lot of time to sit down and watch an actual movie or anything like that. But if I do, like the last movie I saw in the theaters was Draft Day. So
With Kevin Costner?
yeah, so that should
Yeah.
um how long it's been since I've been to a movie theater.
Yeah, I think that was like 2014, honest. I think I saw that in the theaters.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
And then it was crazy because the NFL draft that year was it sort of played out like the movie Draft Day with Johnny Manziel, which was kind of awesome.
Yeah, Manziel, where did he fall that year?
He he went to like 22, I want to say,
Okay.
down to Cleveland. He went to Cleveland at like 22.
Yeah, I think the most because I'm thinking Brady Quinn kind of had the most one of the more embarrassing draft days where he just kept falling and falling and you could see in his face how upset he was kind of getting about it.
You're
Uh,
losing money, hundreds of thousands of dollars every number you go down. I mean, it's rough, especially when you're thinking you're going to be a top three, and then you just keep dropping.
yeah, yeah, that's got to be painful. We did have someone from Nashville, Kendall Reyes went in 2012 went 48 overall, so that was a big deal for the city for
Yeah.
Kendall to do that. Um, all right, good picks. I like that. Good Burger is definitely a movie I've enjoyed for years. I love Keenan and Kel. What a combination. Uh,
And there is a group of wrestlers that it's myself, Orange Cassidy, John Silver, and a few Chuck Taylor, where we will just text each other hot rod quotes um over and over again. And it's at least every day. Like those are three of my best friends in wrestling. And while we talk every day about other stuff, there's always hot rod quotes somewhere in there. So, it's
I'll have
great.
to I'll have to rewatch it because I don't know if I've only watched it once. Who else was in that movie? Was it just was
Um,
it just Sandberg was the main
Now
guy?
Danny McBride's in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, you had me at McBride.
yeah,
Eastbound and Down's one of my all-time favorites.
same here, same here.
So I'll have to check that out. It's been a while. All right, we have some questions from the Let Freedom Ring audience. Jared Doomling, he's a big independent wrestling fan in the
All right.
area. He wants to know, Sidney, how come it's your birthday every day?
Well, I see everybody trying to sell stuff in wrestling right now. Whether it's their gear, their socks, their underwear, or whatever it is, t-shirts, everything. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna say it's my birthday every single day and put up my PayPal and see who pays me. And so far, I've been doing it since my actual birthday on May 31st,
Oh
and
man.
I've got like $135 so far. And every time somebody sends me money, I send it back to them, like right away. And give them a little note like, hey, thank you for playing along. It's a great joke. I have fun with it. But yeah, people are like, and I tell everybody, don't say anything. And they send me the money and then I send it back. I have said though to my wife that if anybody ever sends me like $300, they're not getting it back. I will buy some.
Yeah. Oh, that's too funny. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that's working because you would think if you see the post more than once, you
You
get
sort
it.
of know. Then,
Yeah.
so the way wrestling works is at first they're not in on the joke, and then they're super in on the joke. So when
Yeah.
they're really in on it, they want to be a part of it. So it's great.
Actually, I think that's an extremely valid point about wrestling fans when they're in on it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're
No,
having so much fun, and wrestling is about making money. And this year, I honestly, as a human being, feel guilty taking money for doing nothing. So I give it back. But I just think it's funny. Like the first person, it was on my birthday. He sent me $15 and said, "I know it's not your birthday," and I'm like, "Well, it is," but I sent it back to him right away. But yeah, it was kind of awesome.
that's all. Yeah, that is pretty cool. Just off topic a little bit, just because with the merchandise, like, because I really like the shirt a lot, and pro wrestling tee is cool that you can get long sleeves because a lot of companies don't do
Yeah.
that. Um, do you come up with the designs? Does someone else come up with the designs, or how does that all work?
So I'm the most unartistic person you'll ever meet. But I have an idea in my head, and I reach out to this young lady in New Jersey. Her name is Yolanda. She actually now designs gear for Cesaro,
Oh, okay.
Leo Rush, Bobby Lashley. Like she does all of their gear. Drew Gulak is another one. So I go through her when she's not busy. Unfortunately, now she's really busy. So the shirt you're wearing was designed by a gentleman up in Oregon, named Werner, and then also a local wrestler, Teddy Goods,
Oh,
around
Teddy,
here
yep.
does a lot of Teddy does a lot of my merch as well. So, it all depends on what I need. Like if I need a character, then I'm going to Warner, the guy that did the shirt you're wearing. He also did the WrestleMania shirt as well. So it just all depends.
Awesome, awesome. That's cool. Yeah, I think I've seen Teddy Goods wrestle a few times. He seems like a good guy. I think he said I've had rotator cuff surgery. I think he had it too, which was
Yep.
interesting that he was so able to come back and wrestle the way he does. So,
Yeah, he's
uh,
he's really good. I actually was booked to by his father to ruin his brother's wedding as Sidney.
yeah.
Um, so they bring me up all the way up to the White Mountains, and they pay me, they feed me, and I walk in during the best man speech, which was Teddy, who has no idea that I'm going to be there, and like no one knew except the father, and I just walk in a pair of Zubaz, a fanny pack, and an NWO T-shirt saying I'm taking over the wedding. Gave my own best man speech. Like the groom was wearing a tuxedo, so I asked him if it was his big night, and yeah, or a white tuxedo. So yeah, just having fun with it.
No, that's awesome. That's that I'm sure everybody was entertained by that, and I'm sure even the non-wrestling fans,
Yeah.
picked up on that.
Oh, they had no idea what was going on at first, and then I start cracking the jokes and roasting everybody, and I think I said the last time I saw a wedding this awkward, the father was holding a shotgun, and everybody was in on it at that point.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And that brings us to another big wrestling fan, Jerry Lane. Jerry's at pretty much I've seen him on all the shows. Um, Coffee and chat with Paul, and I'm going to say this name wrong.
Gosh.
Bosch and or Don Owen.
All right, so Paul Bosch was the wrestling promoter in the Missouri territory, notoriously cheap. That was the worst payoff territory outside of Memphis with Jerry Lawler, back in the 70s. I would want to hang out with Don Owens because he was all about the outlaws up there, and he was one of those guys that would be shooting at stop signs while driving down the road, and those are the guys that I'm drawn to in wrestling, and that my character has sort of emulated 30 or 40 years later are these insane people. And Don Owens had a lot of money and paid everyone very well.
All right, awesome, awesome. Now, would you kind of consider yourself a wrestling historian? Because like those are names that I'm not aware of.
So when I think of wrestling historian, I think of giant nerd. Um, I've been doing this gimmick now since 2012, and I've been in wrestling since 2003. So in 2012, a promoter came to me and said, I want you, but I don't want you. Come up with something different. So I took 6 months off of wrestling and I just studied old wrestling until I found Sidney. And I in that time I'm watching everything. I'm not leaving the house. I'm watching wrestling from the time I get home from work until 1 in the morning, and just watching all of this old stuff. So I don't want to consider myself a wrestling historian. I'm just a fan. Like I love old wrestling. I love talking with fans. Like, I never want to be considered that wrestling person that's a jerk and won't talk to anybody. No. Like we're all in the same boat. I wanna relive memories, and I want to make memories. Now I got memories made for me when I was a kid. I get to do that for thousands of people around the world now.
No, no, I like that. Yeah, no, I have to say the first time I think I saw you were managing Robo, and
Oh,
I want to say Chaotic was running a show somewhere in Massachusetts. It was this big gym or something, and I was like, "Who's that? Who is that?" Like, I thought it was brilliant at the time because I had never seen it before.
yep.
Um, So no, I think it's one of the more unique characters in the area. Um, and that brings us to Eric Dowling just had a comment. Man, I need to make my way down there once this all clears up. Eric is a big Limitless wrestling fan. Um, and
Yep.
I know Joey Eastman is quite the manager there in Limitless as well.
Yeah, I used to work up there as Sidney, and then we it sort of ended. Like there's only so much with the story that we were telling that we could do. It was essentially I was bringing in hired assassins. So the promoter Randy Carver up there is 22 years old,
Yeah,
and
young kid.
he came to me and said, "I remember when I was a kid, I watched you, and I hated you more than everyone." Um, So I don't want Sidney. I want Joey. I haven't I only do Joey there.
Yep.
And quite frankly, I don't remember what Joey was because I'm so into Sidney Bakabella at this point. So it's been a challenge. However, I have this unique way of making everyone hate me. So it's like riding a bike. You really don't forget. So I have had death threats. I have had, you know, people trying to fight me, and I love it.
Yeah, I have to say my favorite because I got to get to a bunch. Limitless is quite the drive, if you want
Yeah.
to go see. But I had to go see what was going on, so I went to a bunch of shows last year, and my favorite moment was I saw a guy walking around with a Mexican wrestling mask, and I remember thinking like, okay, some people do that, so I have some masks. I won't wear them in public, but so I'm thinking, I was like, this is kind of weird, just thinking that in my head, not thinking potentially it was you.
Yeah.
And so stand there in the crowd, and then when that, I think Brandon Kirk came out, made the attack. um and the third guy, why am I blanking his name? MSP,
Alexander.
Alexander Lee. And I was like, that was my favorite moment. One of my favorite moments of the whole year, because you got us.
Because I got all the wrestlers that day too. So Hornswoggle, I have known since 2003. He was on that show, and I'm walking around with the mask on. The only people that knew that I was there were the people involved in the match and the promoter. That was it. Um, so Hornswoggle has no idea. So I walk up, I'm like, "Can I take a picture with you?" And he's like, "Yeah, buddy, come on over." And I take the picture, and then I text it to him about 10 minutes later. And he's like, "Yeah, I took a picture with that guy." I'm like, "I know." And that was it until after I did the thing. But I asked Christian Casanova in the bathroom. We're both going pee, and I asked to take a selfie with him while he's going to the bathroom. And he's such a nice kid. He says
Yeah.
yes, but he's so mortified by it.
Oh, I could only imagine. And he's a great guy. No, I see, that's one of my one of my favorite things of being a wrestling fan is when you get us.
Yes,
That's one of the best parts of being a fan. So,
and
uh,
it's in 2020. It's hard to get you. So when I do, I'm very like I was very proud of that night. Like we generated real heat. People were angry at us, and they came back to see us get beat up in 2 months.
yeah, and that was I made it to that show too, and that was a good payoff for the whole thing. So that
Yeah.
was wonderful. All right, it's going to bring us into sports here. Rob Manfred, I should say, becoming one of my least favorite commissioners, now less confident that 2020 baseball season is going to happen. Players apparently are disgusted by his backtracking. I think Mike Trout even said something today. Do you think baseball is going to happen? Do you think Manfred's a good commissioner? Like, it's a mess right
No,
now.
I don't think he's a good commissioner. But I do think it's going to happen. I think the Players Association will get together, say, "Hey, we can do this." I don't know why he's backtracking. Like the fans want baseball, the players want to play. It's this guy. So, and I get it. You have to take precautions. So it's not like they are running up and hitting each other. They've been social distancing since the beginning of baseball. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So let them play.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see that happen. I know some of the money issues is part of the problem too that they're running into. Owners don't want to pay the full salaries. I get it. You're not selling tickets, but yeah, I hope it happens. I mean, we're going to be opening up, and I don't know how I feel about it yet, but slow pitch softball in the area, which I'm a big slow pitch softball player. We're going to have guidelines. Obviously, we're not going to have any way of checking people if you have it or not.
Yeah,
But so I'm still I think you can say distance. I think we can make it work. But really hoping for baseball. I love baseball so much. So
for sure.
uh, Roger Goodell kind of changing his tune after about 4 years. Now he's saying he thinks the team should pick up Colin Kaepernick. What do you think of Goodell? Do you think a team should pick up Colin Kaepernick at this point?
I think it's 4 years too late. I think that this should have been the mindset when he wasn't in the, like, at first, when it all first happened. This should have been the mindset, and it wasn't. Um, now to go back on it, the guy's 4 years older, and that's 4 prime years in the NFL. Do I want to see him play? Absolutely. Come in, be a good backup, be a good third string, and then, if something happens, you go out there and you win a game. Do I think he can be an elite performer? No. And it's only because of his age, not because of anything else. But do I think he should get tryouts and, get workouts? Yes. I've been saying that for years now.
It's been really frustrating over the last 4 years because obviously with the theme of the show is let freedom ring, and I believe that you have the freedom to, if you want to kneel for the flag, especially for what they were protesting, which is police brutality and social justice. I've always wanted to see him in the league, and it's been tough that he hasn't. And you're right, he's now 4 years older, and he wasn't even playing in the Canadian Football League or any other football league. He's just been sitting. So I think this goes into hate to just rip on commissioners, but Roger Goodell's not a good commissioner of that
No.
league.
We've been
Yeah.
saying that for how long now? For so many
Yeah.
years. And the whole taking a knee thing. Look, I was in the Navy. I did 5 years. That's why I did it, is so he can have the freedom to do that. If I wanted to live in a country where I had to stand up for the national anthem, if I didn't want to, I would move to North Korea because you have to stand up there. Um, it's what we fought for. It's America, and that is his right to do it. And people thought it was insulting the vets. No, we're like, okay, yeah, that's why we do it. Okay, I'm still going to stand. However, let him do whatever he wants to do and get his message. And it did. The message got out there. It just took 4 years for something to actually happen.
Yeah, and Sidney, I want to thank you for your service as well. I didn't mention that earlier. Obviously, very appreciated. What I also find very interesting, personally, I don't know many veterans that have had an issue with it.
Yeah.
Which is what's kind of got me. So who's really, if the veterans don't have an issue with it, who really, what are we really arguing about here?
It's the fake patriots. It's that guy. I love my country from my couch. I love my country from my home. They didn't go out there and do anything to show their love, and like you have to be intelligent about it. And they're just like, no, it's disrespecting the vets. No, it's not. That's what we did. That's why we did it. It's a lot of fake patriotism.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that, and I very much agree. I think it's fake patriotism. Um, NASCAR is doing away with the Confederate flag, or they're just outlawing it. Um, I think it may hurt their business just from where they run. I personally think that flag belongs in a museum. What do you think of NASCAR making that stride?
Uh, Good. Like, why are you flying the flag of the losing side? It belongs in a museum. It belongs in a history book. it doesn't belong being flown anywhere. It represents a lot of hate. It represents a lot of oppression of people for many years all over the country. Yeah, like it shouldn't be around anymore. Like if you want to fly a flag of losers, fly the French flag or fly German. Why aren't you flying a Nazi flag while you're at it? I mean, they were losers too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I don't want people to say, well, you're saying it's okay to, do you guys really, support the First Amendment? If you want to fly the Confederate flag at your house, I don't care. I'm going to judge you, but
Yep.
NASCAR also, they have the right to, they want people coming to the races and they want everybody coming. And that flag, I know that I don't believe that everybody that flies that flag totally understands it. Sometimes it's just being ignorant to an issue.
Yep.
But yeah, what did you think of the driver that he'd never won a race and he's making this big statement that he's not going to participate anymore?
Yeah, I love NASCAR's response to that. We had to Google who you were. I mean, you're trying to make it
Did they say that?
just
Oh,
shut
that's
up.
great.
You can't fly your flag. Just shut up. Okay. You want to fly a flag, fly the American flag and fly it proud. There you go.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought it was kind of funny because I don't follow NASCAR, so I had no idea who he was. And then when I was like, well, maybe he matters. And then to find out
Who is he?
he's nobody, that was kind of interesting. Sidney, what are some of your favorite sports moments?
Um, Definitely the 85 Bears. Even though I wasn't really cognizant of it. But the Michael Jordan run, loved those 90s Bulls. And then I love Tom Brady. I love that he is the greatest quarterback in the history of the sport, and I got to see him. Like I didn't get to see Johnny Unitas, I didn't get to see all those guys, but I got to see Tom Brady, who's like there was nobody better. Aaron Rodgers is close. Tom Brady is just he was on another level, and I got to see it. So I would say that Super Bowl win over Atlanta was
Oh yeah.
just spectacular.
And that kind of shut a lot of people up. Like I have a friend who's on Facebook, he's a Packers fan, always trolling, and he finally had to say that night. Finally,
Yeah.
he's the greatest, and I have to just admit that I can't believe what they just did.
Yeah, it
You
was
know.
incredible.
So yeah. Now, question. Now, I'm a big Scottie Pippen fan. Do you think would you say you're a Bulls fan, more of a Bulls fan?
I'm more of a Bulls fan than a Celtics fan. Yeah.
Okay. Does Scotty get the credit that he deserves?
No. But I don't think it has anything to do with him on the court. I think it was Scottie Pippen off the court. So Scottie Pippen in Chicago was called No Pippen Tippin. He would go no
Jeez.
tippin, no tippin Pippen. He would go to restaurants and tip like $2 or $5 on $100 bill. Like that was Scottie Pippen. He didn't talk to the media. He didn't endear himself and do all the things that Michael Jordan and even Dennis Rodman did. Me, I'm a big Luke Longley fan. I always was a big Luke Longley fan. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I didn't know that was his nickname there. See, I since first grade, I just liked Pippen more than Jordan because that was the team. Obviously I'm a Celtics fan, but in my childhood, the Bulls dominated the '90s. That's what the
yeah,
story was. But sometimes I see just the people trashing Scottie Pippen that aren't even really, they don't even care about it. They just, I don't know. I love Jordan too. Don't get me wrong. But
yeah. I like Pippen. I mean, don't get me wrong. Without Pippen, Jordan wasn't as good as he is. That team wasn't complete. But this yeah, I think Jordan blew Pippen away, but Pippen definitely held his place, and I do think he was underrated because he didn't endear himself to the media.
no, that's fair. Fair enough. I had no idea it was a nickname of his. So, um, all right, that brings us into politics. Now, I've been asking every guest this question because I think it's really important. It's really important in a time like this. Um, what makes a good leader to you?
Um, Someone who can bring people together, and not devise sides. A good president would be working with Democrats and Republicans, trying to unite the country. Um, that to me is a good leader, not somebody that's only for the United States, but somebody that will help out around the world as well, because we're looked at as a leader around the world. Um, we should be leaders around the world.
Yeah, I very much agree. And this, yeah, and this question does go to the president. And I felt this way. And a lot of my Republican friends have felt like we've lacked leadership, not just before, obviously before, but then we had a crisis, and then it really felt like we were on our own here.
It feels like I'm watching pro wrestling every time I watch the news. It's a circus. It seems hokey to me and fake, and I have to question, is this really happening right now? And then it is. It's bizarro world.
It has been bizarre world, and I guess that takes us right into the next question. How do you think President Trump has handled the pandemic?
Terribly. I remember everybody said it was fake, and a
Yep.
hoax and everything else. And if we weren't doing that at the time, then we would have, maybe we would have been out of quarantine a month ago, or we may have been able to stop this a long time ago. And it was laughed at, it wasn't taken seriously, and then all of a sudden, whoa, we have a problem here, and what do we do? So, and it's really just the saying dumb things. Um, you know, I'm sure that there are a team of people behind him working overtime on this, but he doesn't talk about that. He talks in his short sentences. He talks, and makes up stuff, and it's so frustrating to hear people still supporting him.
What do you think is the driver between people still? Is it because they just and I've had people on the show that still support him, and I and to their point, whatever. But is it this I don't want to be wrong mentality?
I think it's a little bit of that. I think what he did was what every bad guy wrestler does. And they appeal I appeal to a fan base because they're like, okay, that guy's awesome because he's a cheater, but he never lies about cheating. He'll always tell you he's cheating until the referee catches him. And that's sort of what he did. Was he went that mentality. He went and cut everyone down instead of saying what he can do, because he can't do anything. What he does is he just insults everyone. And everybody's like, all right, I can get behind this guy. It was
Yeah,
like The Rock. When The Rock
yeah.
would insult everyone, everybody loved The Rock. The Rock, I thought, was a terrible promo because all he did was, cut everyone down. Um, so that's what Trump did, and it worked for him because politics is a popularity contest. It's not
Yeah.
about what you do, it's who likes you. And Trump in that demographic is very likable because he's talking about Ted Cruz's wife and yeah, you don't do that. And it was never done. And they're like, okay, that's awesome because he's really going for the throat here.
I have to totally agree with that. And one thing that what I've learned from this, now I'm a little bit older now. Um, when Obama was running, I mean, I was all in on Barack Obama. And I admittedly, now I'm catching myself years later going, I guess I was never really that critical of him when maybe sometimes he deserved criticism. We can't treat politicians like they're sports teams. They're pro wrestlers.
Yeah.
These are the people that we're electing to run the country. So I totally agree with you. I think his insulting, I can't get behind something like that. I can go to a wrestling show and can, but not in
Yes,
my everyday life. you know.
yes. If I want that, I'm going to watch pro wrestling. I don't want that running our economy like that. that's scary. The world economy is scary. You got to play well with other people. You can't insult China. You gotta work with everybody, and he's not doing that.
No, agreed. And it's funny. We came into 2020 thinking, what was trending at one point? Are we going to World War III with all the stuff with Iran? So
Yep.
it's been quite the year.
Oh,
Uh, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. So
something different. It'll be something different every day.
yeah. Um, who do you have any picks for Joe Biden? Anybody you think that Joe Biden should pick as a running mate? He's really kind of dragging his feet on this. I figured he'd
He
pick by
is.
now.
I in my heart, I would love Jesse Ventura. I mean, that would be something, but it'll never happen. So I actually really liked Tulsi Gabbard because he wants to go with a woman. So I like Klobuchar, but I like Tulsi better. I I don't even know if you have to go woman because now you're just trying to appeal to another demographic that you don't need to. Get a strong candidate. I like Mayor Pete. I think he would be a good pick. I mean, why not, right? There are so many great people. Oprah. Bring in Oprah. There you go.
She might do it. She might put him over the top. I now part of the issue too. Do you think that the Bernie supporters will come out and vote, or do you think? Because I feel like they didn't. Like we had two elections in a row and I voted for Bernie Sanders myself. Um, where in the end they really didn't show up. But I also feel like there's still a demographic there that's not going to get behind Biden and then not show up for the general election.
Yeah, and it's going to happen. And then what you're going to see is all of these people for the next 4 years, if that happens, they'll be complaining about Trump. Well, did you vote? No, I'm not voting for Biden. Okay, then shut up. Get out there and vote. If you don't like this, get out there and vote. That's all you can do.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I do have one criticism of Colin Kaepernick. And it came out in 2016. After all that, he did not vote.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. He must
So
be doing nothing. Yeah.
yeah, so that was one thing that I remember going like, dude, you have a message going, and then they ask you, did you vote? No. All right.
Awesome. Awesome.
All right, so that's going to bring us to my favorite segment of the show, which is blank versus blank. So I'm going to give you two people, two words, two anything really. You have to pick one and say why.
All right, let's go.
All right, first one: Vince McMahon or Vern Gagne.
Vince McMahon, he put Vern out of business. Vern Gagne was so out of touch with wrestling, it was unbelievable. If you watch the AWA in 1990 and the WWF in 1990, you'll see why I pick Vince McMahon.
Do you feel like Vince kind of took everybody from him? Essentially, is what happened. But
he did. Vern made everyone. Vern had TV on ESPN every day, and Vince McMahon is watching this. And he's just taken all the best people until the last good person was Larry Zbyszko. And then finally, Vern had to shut down.
Yeah, it's crazy. Now, was there a rumor that, like, did Vern Gagne maybe have a hit out on Vince McMahon or something, or he wanted some harm to him?
The night Hulk Hogan won the title from the Iron Sheik was trained by Vern Gagne. And Vern Gagne calls up the Iron Sheik and says, I'll give you $100,000 if you break Hulk Hogan's leg and take the title back to Minnesota. The Iron Sheik is a very smart guy. And he's like, all right, it's $100,000 and then that's it. Or I drop the title to Hogan and I do WrestleManias and I do all of these big shows and make way more than $100,000. So the Iron Sheik told me that the LJN figure, the first check that he got in 1985, the very first one, now he got many of these, $78,000 for an action figure. So, I think Shiki made the right choice. But yeah, Vern did put a hit out on him, and it would never happen.
Very interesting. I think I have I think I have the Hogan figure somewhere from that set. They're so big, compared
They're
to some of the others.
You could use them as weapons.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. All right, next one. And I hope this is my. Now I know you work for Chikara. My
Yeah.
favorite Chikara wrestler, and I'm going to say his name wrong, but I love him when he comes to chaotic. Del Ice Cream. How do I say the middle?
Del Ice Cream.
Love him. Love
Yeah.
him. Absolutely love him. Him or Max Smashmaster?
Oh, Max Smashmaster's my boy. I mean, I love Max. We talk every day still, and he's now a trainer at the New England Pro Wrestling Academy. And it's funny because this past week, or 2 weeks ago, he's doing Zoom calls for the students, and he's like, I want to have a special guest. Can you get somebody on TV right now? And I'm like, what are you guys watching in class? And he's like, oh, we're watching Japanese women's wrestling and a lot of women's wrestling. I'm like, all right, I'll get you Bailey. And he's like, no, you won't. That 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 Wednesday, I show up to the Zoom call with Bailey in there, and she did a half an hour seminar on character development as a woman. So I would do anything for Max Smashmaster though. Like he is, our kids play together. Like he's my guy.
Yeah, now I saw because I know he brought you up quite a bit when he did Leo's show, the Ring and All Other Sports. Leo, a friend of the show. But do you think he could have gone further? Because I know he had some health issues, and that kind of derailed his career.
The two things that held Max back. One was that he never sent a video to the WWE. If he did, he would have been gone. They would have signed him. He's 360 pounds and can do backflips, and he's amazing and really smart. But yeah, then the heart condition there, and that ended it for him. It was really sad. We talked many hours. Like, hey, you can still do this. You could still do this. You just can't wrestle. You got to put that behind you now. It's done. So he's found his niche in wrestling though as a trainer, which is amazing.
No, that's awesome, and I know they work really hard. I did the 1-day training camp one time. That was pretty fun.
Awesome.
But wrestling too, it's some luck that has to be thrown in there to really make it big.
Yeah. It's me. I this is my 18th year of doing this, and I've had a lot of breaks, and now I'm just so happy being on the indies. Like I could never picture myself. Well, I did Ring of Honor one night, and I hated it because it felt like work. Whereas the indies are fun to me. I'm not making millions doing it. I make millions doing what I do during the day. Not wrestling, but wrestling allows me to hang out with my friends and just have fun. It does take a little bit of luck, and it's a lot of networking. Like it's who you know. And, if you get in with the right school that can get you to the right wrestling companies that allow people to see you, you're going to have a much better shot at it.
Yeah, no, I that sounds about right. I mean, I know who's the Zack Ryder's tag team partner there. What's his name? It seems like a lot of his students get places.
Yep.
He's having a lot, and obviously the New England Pro Wrestling Academy's had all kinds of success too. So
yeah, Chikara has had tons of success. It just all depends on who like I tell people, if you're not going to go to the New England Pro Wrestling Academy and you're not going to go to Hawkins, go to Chikara, because especially if you're a woman, go to the Chikara Wrestle Factory, because the head trainer for the women in the WWE was the head trainer of Chikara, and they talk all the time. Sarah Amato, Sarah Del Rey was our head trainer. So, it would be smart if you're a woman in wrestling to go to the Wrestle Factory.
Random question about the Wrestling Factory. I'm just not as familiar. Do they use the same building to run shows?
Yep.
Okay. All right. All
Yeah,
right.
it's on Wingate Street in Philadelphia. I before the pandemic, I would drive down there twice a month.
Oh my.
Um, it's a 6 hour drive, and you know, it was worth it. Because I loved being there. I loved working for Chikara. It's my favorite place to work.
Yeah, no, I think at some point I'd like once this is cleared up. I have a friend in Philadelphia. I'd love to make that drive and check it out. I wasn't familiar with it until Brian Fury started bringing them to Chaotic a few times, and I was like, this is great, So
It's the most unique wrestling experience you will ever see. And outside of the promoter Mike Quackenbush and a guy named Icarus and Hollow Wicked, I'm the longest tenured in wrestling there. So we get to see the young kids come in and become stars like young Drew Gulak, um, young Orange Cassidy. Like these are all people that came from the Wrestle Factory that are on TV every week now.
was the girl from the Riot Squad there? I am
Ruby,
blanking. Yeah.
Heidi, she wasn't trained with us. She trained with Billy Rock in Indiana.
Okay.
Um, but she was a mainstay at Chikara and
Okay.
sort of got noticed by working Chikara.
All right. Yeah, because I saw a video and I was like, oh, okay. Making the connections of where people came from. All right. So there was a documentary on Saturday night. And it's getting bad reviews, but I enjoyed it. Maybe because I'm just a home run guy and love the summer. Who you got? Mark McGuire or Sammy Sosa?
I'm a Chicago guy, Sammy Sosa. That was so much fun that year. That the home run, the chasing the home runs there. So much fun to be a baseball fan. Like either pick, you can't go wrong. I'm just a Chicago guy. I love Sammy Sosa.
Yeah, I wish I didn't realize that the Cubs really haven't brought him back, and I know that
Yeah,
it's time to let it. Yeah, maybe everybody was doing steroids there, and I've said it. I don't care. I just don't at this point. Bring
it is.
Sammy back.
Steroids make everything more exciting. It made baseball more exciting. It made football, wrestling, no matter what. I'm a big advocate of steroids as long as I'm not doing them. You guys want to do them? Go ahead. I'm not going to do them, but I want you to do them so that way you can make everything I watch more exciting.
And the one other point I just will bring up about those two guys. 1994 could have killed baseball forever,
Yep,
and Sosa McGuire brought it back,
brought it
and
back.
Bud Selig turned a blind eye. So if you really want to talk about who was guilty here, my opinion, again, I know I've ripped on commissioners a few times today. Bud Selig, I hold him responsible.
All right.
More responsible for the Patriots' success, Tom Brady or Bill Belichick?
Bill Belichick. I mean, he's the guy driving the ship. Tom Brady is the guy, or he's Bill Belichick's the guy doing the logistics of the ship. He is making sure the ship is efficient. Tom Brady is just steering that wheel. So Bill Belichick, and you'll see it this year when the Bucks go 8-8, and the Patriots are going to go 11-5 this year.
Yeah, I have to. I agree with that, and I've said that on some other shows where he's the guy getting the groceries, and he put that team together over and over. But obviously, Brady's the greatest of all time, but when you're
Yep.
the guy putting the team together, you might get a little more of the credit.
Without Belichick, Brady's not the greatest of all time.
I think that might be a fair point,
Yep.
very much so. I think I know the answer to this, but I had to ask because I knew you were a Chicago guy, but you're also a New England guy.
Yeah.
The Bears or Patriots?
The Bears. It's the only one that's not even a difficult question for. Like I love the Red Sox, but I like the Cubbies. I like the Celtics and I like the Bulls. There is nothing like my Chicago Bears. My love for the Bears is just it. Sundays in football season, I will not take wrestling bookings so that way I can watch my Bears game. I slow my schedule down at the end of the year so I can watch the Bears game. I fly out to a game every year. I try to, anyways, every year. Like, I love my Bears.
All right, all right. I wasn't sure how until the interview really started. I wasn't sure how that was going to go. Um,
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw in a random question then. You had two teams break a curse. You've been alive for both of them. '04 Red Sox, 2016 Cubs. Did either one mean more to you than the other?
The Red Sox did. That one because I had, I was still young, so I still had close ties with Boston, even though I was living in Chicago at the time. That and I was a bigger baseball fan in '04 than I was when the Cubs won. So uh, that Red Sox win, I could tell you the night that the Red Sox beat the Yankees. Um,
Oh,
and they came back to win. I was driving back from Waukesha, Wisconsin the night, and I wrestled Jake the Milkman Milliman that night up in Waukesha. And old AWA wrestling fans will pop for the Jake the Milkman Milliman reference. Nobody else will. But yeah, like I could tell you where I was. It was like 9/11. Like where you were. I knew where I was that night.
yeah, that was the most. I mean, the World Series was the icing on the cake, but beating the Yankees, I don't think there was anything that could ever be as good as that was. You know.
No, that was the World Series beating the Yankees.
Yeah, no, for sure. And most people say that. And then it was like, oh, we won the World Series too. Well, okay, you know.
Yep. Cool.
Uh, '80s wrestling or '90s wrestling?
My favorite year in wrestling is 1992.
Okay.
92 WWF is so much fun for me. I absolutely love it. Um, so I would have to say, but then again, I hate the Attitude Era. So it's such a toss up. Um, you know, I I would have to say for an entire decade, probably the 80s. But if
Okay.
I pick one year, it's 92.
I started watching '91, so I enjoyed '92 as well. I think as child me though, I wanted more of the Ultimate Warrior, and he always just disappeared on us. You know what I mean?
He always failed drug test.
Yeah. Any reason you don't like the? I kind of agree with you. I love the main event part of the Attitude Era, but I can say the majority of it is kind of not good.
It was too raunchy and everything went too fast. So it was throughout the 80s and early 90s, you had time to digest everything. There were four pay-per-views, and then they just kept adding everything. And then it was just for shock value, that they would put things on TV. I never fell out of it, but I just didn't like it as much. And I always, outside of Steve Austin, I always yearned for, just bring me back to when Lex Luger and the British Bulldog were a team. And, give me the Blue Brothers, not the Disciples of Apocalypse.
Oh, I remember. Then they wrestled each other at Mania 11, right?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, yeah. I look back because at the time during the Attitude Era, I was in middle school, so I think a lot of that stuff was cool. But when I go back and watch it as an adult, I go, oh, I don't want to see Kai and Tai cut off Val Venus's
Yeah,
penis. Like,
it's like Billy
what?
Springer wrestling ring.
And I know time is a thing, but I mean, if you look back, I mean, they were very disrespectful to the women
Yeah.
overall compared to where it is now. Yeah, yeah. Outside of the main event, I don't think it was all that good.
No, not at all. It was just shocking to be shocking. Like I love the Vince McMahon and Steve Austin stuff. Vince is the greatest heel in wrestling history. Um, that story is outside of the Mega Powers. That is the best story that's ever been told in wrestling. But yeah, like everything else underneath that was just garbage.
Yeah, nah, I have to agree. I am one of those. As a kid, I didn't really understand who Vince Russo was until WCW. And then when I saw what he did there, I was like, oh my God, this guy is maybe the worst thing that's happened to
Yeah,
wrestling, you know?
I hear rumors that he is back with TNA now or Impact now. So
But
I'm not sure. Don't know for sure, but I've heard that.
I just don't know I don't know what you do with him because it also feels like he doesn't, it almost feels like he doesn't like wrestling in a way from interviews I've heard him do.
No, he but he wants to be a part of it. He wants people to talk to him, you know.
All right. Well, this is going to bring us to our next question because one of these people despises Vince Russo, Jim Cornette. I think he would kill him. Better manager, Jim Cornette or Bobby Heenan?
Bobby Heenan. Any day of the week, Bobby Heenan. Jim Cornette. So I have a love-hate relationship with Jim Cornette. I think he is so smart. I think he knows what he's talking about on most things. And then there are other things where he's just so completely wrong, but he can't admit that he's wrong. So, Bobby Heenan was just a better manager. He was a better worker. Just everything he did was better than Jim Cornette. Yeah, I don't know. Corny just you're more it's more of a bless your heart type thing at this point for Jim Cornette.
Yeah, he says a lot of crazy things, though. I do feel like he's sometimes when he'll say things and I go, "Oh, Jim Cornette gets it. He's kind of a progressive guy," and then he'll say something else where you're like, "What? Like, what are you thinking?"
And what's his gimmick? Sorry, Jim Cornette, if I kill it, but his gimmick is to do and say things like that, so people like us talk about it on the internet. And
True.
he, like Orange Cassidy, just an incredible wrestler. He hates Orange Cassidy. Like I don't know how you can because the guy's so good and the most over guy on TV right now.
Oh my gosh, one of my favorite moments of last year, but just as a fan, is being in the audience during an Orange Cassidy match because the audience becomes part of the match. It's a brilliant idea, and I feel like a lot of people on the internet they don't get what he's doing there.
Yep. Nope.
I love Orange Cassidy, and it's cool that you're friends with him. I will say when he was at that Evolve show, we went up to him and said, "Hey, how much for a picture with you?" He goes, $0. I said, all right, cool, because where he was standing, all the wrestlers were charging for pictures and T-shirts, and he's just standing there going, I don't care who takes a picture with me. So yeah, I really like him. Last question. This is usually the toughest one of blank versus blank. Two Brians, Brian Fury or Brian Malonis?
Brian Malonis. Brian Malonis. I would take a bullet for Brian Malonis. I would use that bullet on Brian Fury.
Awesome.
Yeah. No, Brian Fury's great. I've known Brian for years. They're both awesome. But no, if I had to pick a guy, Brian Fury's sort of a downer a lot of times. So, like Brian Malonis is never a downer, and I know that I would eat good with Brian Malonis.
Yeah, he's actually and Brian Malonis is going to come on the show, and I'm sure he's going to talk about the Steelers quite a bit. So, but anyway, Sidney, I really appreciate you coming on. I'd love to have you back once this blows over. We can get back in the studio here in Merrimack. So if you ever would like to come back, it'd be great.
Anytime. This has been so much fun. Thank you.
All right. Well, that's going to do it this week. We have another show this week, but until then, continue to let freedom ring.